When the disappearance of Nancy Guthrie, the 84-year-old mother of Today show anchor Savannah Guthrie, became national news, the spotlight did not stay fixed on the empty porch in Tucson for long. It shifted quickly toward the people closest to her. For weeks, one voice remained missing from that conversation: her daughter, Annie Guthrie. Now, as scrutiny intensifies around Annie's husband, Tommaso San, she has finally broken her silence, addressing the growing forensic debate surrounding the masked figure seen on surveillance footage the night her mother vanished. Annie's decision to speak comes after relentless public pressure. Since Nancy disappeared in the early hours of the morning, online speculation has filled the vacuum left by limited official updates. Amateur analysts have dissected footage frame by frame. Social media has compared body shapes, walking styles, and timelines. Through it all, Annie remained quiet, reportedly at the request of investigators, focusing on cooperation rather than commentary. But as forensic interpretations became more detailed and more public, silence itself began to look like avoidance. At the center of the storm is a 44-second surveillance clip recorded at 1:47 a.m. It shows a masked individual approaching Nancy's front porch. What immediately struck investigators was not haste or visible anxiety but composure. The figure does not scan the street. He does not hesitate. He walks directly to the porch camera and taps the lens twice, slowly and deliberately. Behavioral specialists argue that this gesture appears less like a discovery and more like familiarity, the kind of unconscious movement someone makes in a space they already understand. Authorities have clarified that modern cloud-based cameras begin uploading footage the moment motion is detected. Although the device was manually disabled, the recording had already been transmitted to a remote server. The clip was later released publicly, not simply to generate tips, but because investigators believed it captured a behavioral fingerprint. The suspect's appearance only deepened the mystery. Analysts noted the absence of tactical gear. Instead, the figure wore a basic ski mask, disposable nitro-style gloves, and a budget backpack with reflective strips. A belly band holster appeared to be worn incorrectly, loose over a thick jacket. Former law enforcement reviewers have described the configuration as inconsistent with trained criminal practice. Investigators have floated two interpretations. The first suggests inexperience, someone impulsive and underprepared. The second, more unsettling possibility proposes that the clumsy appearance was intentional, a calculated display meant to deflect suspicion from someone educated and socially established. The case escalated when a single black glove was reportedly recovered along a roadside less than 2 miles from Nancy's home, on what officials believe could be an escape route. The glove matched those visible in the footage. On the same day, federal agents were seen leaving Annie and Tommaso's residence carrying a brown paper evidence bag. In forensic protocol, paper containers are typically used for items that may contain biological material suitable for DNA analysis. Attention soon turned to measurable physical details. Using fixed reference points on the porch, including standardized brick dimensions, analysts estimated the suspect's height between 5'9" and 5'11", with a solid build approaching 230 pounds. They identified a distinct torso-to-leg ratio and hip width, skeletal proportions clothing cannot conceal. Comparisons were reportedly made to available images of Tommaso San, with analysts describing overlap as notable, though not conclusive. Enhanced frames revealed another subtle detail: groomed eyebrows visible through the mask's eye openings. Profilers suggest this indicates routine grooming habits and social stability, characteristics not typically associated with transient offenders. The timeline has also drawn scrutiny. Investigators say Tommaso drove Nancy home at 9:50 p.m., walked her inside, and left. Less than 4 miles separate the homes. Nearly 4 hours later, the camera was disabled. Officials described that window as sufficient for planning and execution by someone familiar with the area. A ransom demand later surfaced seeking $6 million in Bitcoin, sent through media outlets rather than privately. Blockchain review showed only a small transaction under $300, consistent with monitoring tactics. The wallet has remained inactive, suggesting limited technical knowledge rather than organized expertise. In her remarks, Annie emphasized cooperation and restraint. She acknowledged the weight of public suspicion while reiterating that her husband has complied fully with investigators. She urged the public to distinguish between forensic examination and guilt, reminding viewers that speculation carries real human cost. At the same time, Annie made clear that the evidence deserves serious attention. Her priority, she said, is finding her mother. Friends describe her tone as steady but strained, protective of her family, yet resolute in allowing science to determine the truth. Law enforcement continues to stress that no arrests have been made and no suspects formally named. DNA testing on the recovered glove is ongoing. Evidence collected from residences is under analysis. The cryptocurrency wallet remains under surveillance. What remains unchanged is the core reality. Nancy Guthrie vanished from her home in a quiet Tucson neighborhood and has not been found. Investigators maintain that answers will come from forensic results, not internet verdicts. Annie Guthrie's decision to speak does not end speculation, but it shifts the narrative from rumor toward process. Her voice adds a human dimension to a case increasingly dominated by data, reminding the public that behind every frame of footage is a family waiting for clarity.